Hey everybody! So, welcome to the stream. Welcome to the reading of part 2 of this Batman fanfic titled Batman Sees the Light. Now, before I read tonight's portion of the story, a couple of little housekeeping bits to begin. First, this is fanfic. This is me reading fanfic of copyrighted material, etc., etc. So this video is not monetized. I'm not making any money off of this at all. No copyright infringement is intended, etc., etc., etc. But this is also a charity stream to raise money for the really awesome charity Give Directly, which gives money directly to poor people. So it's a really awesome cause. It's a really awesome charity that I'm super happy to support. So if you, through the course of this stream, are listening to me read this story and you really like it, or you just want to show your appreciation for me or for the story or for whatever, and you do want to donate a super chat, you can still do that, and the super chat will go directly to the charity. I will not see a dime of it. It's a charity fundraising stream, so it will go directly to Give Directly. And you can also donate if you're watching this after the stream is over and it's no longer live. You can't do a super chat, but there's a donate button right below the video on the YouTube page. You can click that and you can donate to Give Directly as well. So I would encourage you to do that if you're able to do that, because it's a really good cause. Giving money directly to people who need it. Who thought of that? What a strange idea. If people don't have money and they need money, you just give them money and then they can spend it on whatever they need. It's great. Also, as I mentioned, and as you can tell from the title of the stream, this is part 2 of what will eventually be a 3-part story. Part 3 will be read next week. This is part 2. Last week was part 1. So if you weren't here for part 1, or if you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, first of all, part 1 is linked in the description of this video. So if you want to go back and catch up at some point, it's right there. But if you're here and you just want to hear part 2 and you don't want to go back and, watch part 1 and then come back and watch this later, yada, 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 a quick recap of what happened in part 1. In part 1, Bruce Wayne is at a party. He's at like a swanky party in Gotham City. It's an awards dinner given by the Gotham Globe, the newspaper there, and he's doing his typical sort of Bruce Wayne doofus routine. And by the way, Brian Pooh KC, thank you very much for donating to Give Directly. I really, really appreciate that. Bruce is doing his dopey sort of routine and acting drunk, and Clark Kent happens to be there because it's a journalist thing. So Clark Kent is there, and he runs into Clark, and they have a little bit of banter. And then Bruce decides it's time to leave, so he walks outside. And as he's walking outside, he is confronted by none other than Ra's al Ghul, one of Batman's arch nemeses. And Ra's tells Bruce that he has come to this party to find him because, of course, Ra's knows Bruce's identity as Batman. And he says he needs Batman's help because Ra's al Ghul's daughter, Talia, has disappeared, and he fears that Talia has been abducted. But from the way Ra's is acting and talking, and from what Bruce knows about Ra's relationship and feelings for Talia up to this point, he suspects that something else is going on here. And it's not just that Ra's is the concerned father looking for his daughter, that there's some ulterior motive, and Bruce does not like it, and it makes Bruce really mad. So he and Ra's have a fight. Bruce eventually wins the fight, and he tells Ra's that he will never see Talia again. He will never be a part of Talia's life. He'll never find her. Bruce is going to make sure that she will be free of him forever. And he says, and the same will be true of your grandson. And then he calls Superman, who he knows is at the party because he ran into Clark, and he says, hey, Clark, can you take care of Ra's for me? I need to go do something. Can you please just take Ra's and put him somewhere, imprison him, confine him so that he is not going to be a problem anymore, because I need to go take care of something that has to do with him, but he can't be loose and fucking my shit up. So please put him somewhere. And Superman says, gee, I don't know, maybe. And Bruce is like, just you take care of him or I'm going to. And Clark is like, all right, fine, I'll take care of him. So he picks up Ra's and he flies away. And Bruce pulls out his phone and he calls somebody. And we don't know who he calls, but we just see him on the phone. And he says, hey, it's me. I need a big favor. And get to Gotham as soon as you can because it's super important. So that is where we leave off at the end of part 1. And now, after a sip of tea, excuse me, we'll be ready to begin part 2. Caroline Clark in the chat says, and by the way, stick around after the story. I'll hang out in the with everybody in the live chat for a while after the story is over. And Caroline Clark says, which came first, the Batman or the man bat? I think the Batman came first. Oh, Dana, you have no sound? Everybody else can hear me though, right? Maybe you just need to refresh. Or well, I'm talking like she can hear me. Dana says, I have no sound. I'm giving her advice what to do. She can't hear me. What am I doing? Yeah, everybody else can hear me. So, well, we'll wait until Dana figures out what her technical problem is. And then I will commence with chapter 2 or part 2, I guess. Yeah, I would say, yeah, just refresh and see if that does it. So, yeah, and I know some random geek was saying earlier that Ra's is his favorite Batman villain. I think Ra's is one of my favorite Batman villains, too. I think I talked about this at the end of the last chapter. That I feel like Ra's is a really good, like, opposite number for Batman, for Bruce. And you can use him to sort of, shine a spotlight on things, like what makes Batman different from someone like Ra's, things like that. So I think he's a really cool character. I'm looking forward to writing more stories with him in the future. And opinion no one cares about brings something up. Mentions tags Dana and says, loved your work on the Ensign's Log. Yes, Dana is now part of the cast of the Ensign's Log. She will be a regular cast member alongside me and Jason. How awesome is that? And yeah, the most recent episode that was that we released is her first episode as a member of the cast. And yes, she does, Caroline Clark. Yes, she does. Oh, and she still can't hear? That sucks. Yeah, some random geek says in the Batman animated series, Ra's was voiced by David fucking Warner. Yeah, oh, and how good was he? David Warner is one of my favorite actors. Every time David Warner pops up in anything, I'm like, oh, yeah. And maybe, I don't know, see if she can check to see if her if her headphones are plugged in or something. Or I can just type it into the chat. She yells at me, and I'm just trying to see if the problem has been solved. My goodness. Oh, okay. Okay, so we're good. Okay. Just want to make sure that everybody's here. Everybody who is here is ready to hear the story. Okay, so I will update Chrome when this is over. Okay, here we go. So, part 2 of Batman Sees the Light. Here we go. The rumble of the night cycle echoed through the cave even after Dick Grayson cut the power and set his helmet on the seat. Back and changed already? He asked, walking over to the computer where Bruce sat with his hands folded under his chin, gazing intently at an intricate map of Gotham on the screen. Bruce shook his head, but didn't otherwise move. Not exactly, he replied. The bat suit hung neatly in its sealed glass cabinet, but 2 of the cases next to it were empty. They're not at this warehouse either. Tim Drake's voice came through the speakers, thin but clear. Check the one on 38th Street. I've sent you the route. But if you encounter anyone, do not engage, either of you. Recon only. And if you don't find anything at that one, we'll need to figure out where they've headed instead. Keep me posted. Bruce put his head down, resting his forehead on his knuckles. An engine revved. Copy that. Robin out. Wow. Dick let out a slow breath. So, Tim and Cass are out there by themselves? Bruce nodded without looking up. It's primarily an exercise. His shoulders remained tense. But it's still Gotham, of course. Yeah, not exactly kid-friendly even during the daytime. Dick frowned as he looked at Bruce. What made you decide they were ready? Felt like it took forever to get you to let Babs and me off the leash. He cleared his throat. So to speak. And the two of you proved that you were more than prepared when I did. Bruce pushed back from the computer, standing. Which means that I held you back more than was truly necessary. Dick blinked. Wait, does that mean... Are you saying that you were wrong? He pressed his mouth into a thin, tight line, but the corners wobbled treacherously. Bruce narrowed his eyes, and Dick took a step back, hands lifted. Which is fine, of course. Learning from experience. Definitely a good thing. He grinned openly. It's impossible to say how things would have worked out, Bruce replied smoothly. And sometimes it doesn't matter how ready you are, how focused, how resourceful. He closed his eyes. You can prepare as much as possible, and you can't stop every bad thing from happening. The grin faded. Dick walked over to Bruce and put his hand on his mentor's shoulder. No, you can't. You do what you can. And you did that. Bruce opened his eyes again, considering Dick. The two men stood shoulder to shoulder. I know, Bruce replied, regret heavy in his voice. He walked over and stood in front of the case that held the Batsuit. I also wanted to see how Robin and Batgirl would do on their own because I'm going to be out of Gotham for a while. He turned, looking back at Dick, who came over and stood beside him. I can hold down the fort if you'd like. Already brought my gear just in case you wanted a hand tonight. Dick smiled quietly. And, hell, it'll be good to stick around for more than a night or two for a change. Any idea how long it's likely to be? 2 weeks at least. Quite possibly more. I'm preparing for 6 months as an outside limit, though I doubt it will take nearly that long. Dick's head turned sharply. 6 months? You away from Gotham for half a year? He asked, concern and disbelief mingling in his tone. Bruce nodded slowly. If that's what it takes. I should be able to stay in touch, so I'll do what I can to keep you updated, but... He tilted his head, faintly, acknowledging the uncertainty they faced on a regular basis. The silence stretched between them. I know it's a lot to ask, he added, the words tentative, even awkward. That's not what I meant. Of course, I'll stay, Bruce. It's just... Dick reached up, rubbing at his forehead with one hand. I'm trying to be mature and level-headed about this, but let's be honest, it's more than a little unsettling. Like if we were out on patrol and you started telling knock-knock jokes. He paused for a moment, then straightened. Okay, maybe not that unsettling, but, you get the idea. Bruce's eyes crinkled at the corners. It wasn't a smile, but then, when Bruce Wayne smiled, it was charming or flirtatious or foppish, and it was always false. This was real. Well, damn. For once, of only a few times in his life. Dick Grayson was speechless. Bruce dipped his head. It was a good joke, he acknowledged. He looked over toward the computer briefly. I haven't told them. I figured it'd make the most sense when they got back. And you're here, so that helps as well. They're always glad to see you. Yeah, well, me too. Dick looked off to the side, his gaze thoughtful. I always say I should visit more. Just, life happens. Bruce coughed, then cleared his throat. Yes, well, that's definitely accurate. So, Dick reached up, rubbing at the back of his head. Look, maybe you've hashed everything out with Alfred or Leslie, or maybe it's one of those many don't talk about the things. I can respect that, but for something to take you away from Gotham for potentially that long, it's got to be big. Big enough to move me from the general getting shot at and escaped lunatics level of concern and into actual worried territory. I was at the awards banquet that the Globe does every year for its reader response poll. Wayne Industries was voted best in innovation again. I need to talk to Lucius about that. Pretty sure it's the third year in a row, and I like to limit that. I don't want other tech companies to avoid Gotham because they think we've got some kind of stranglehold. He shook his head, sighing. Anyway, not the point. Ra's al Ghul was there. Apparently Talia has disappeared. Bruce turned, walking over to the edge of the plateau. He stared out into the darkness. Dick, he asked for my help finding her. Dick snorted. Like hell. Bruce turned around, brows lifted. Then he shrugged. Pretty much. Though not in those words exactly. Clearly, though, you think there's more going on. Do you think she's in danger? Someone trying to get to Ra's through his daughter? Dick paced in front of the bat suit as he considered the options. Unlikely. Bruce watched his protege begin to piece together the likeliest reason for the uninvited guest at the gala. He felt himself begin to relax, at least slightly, as pride eased away his uncertainty. His indifference toward her is well established. Anyone with enough understanding of his organization to get close enough to abduct her would already know what he saw as her primary purpose. Dick froze. Slowly, he turned to face Bruce. Oh, but you didn't. I mean, you never... His brows lifted. Did you? No, Bruce said, firmly but without force. Given the circumstances, it was not an unreasonable deduction, even if it was a somewhat uncomfortable one. But Ra's has a lot of resources available to him. Sorcery is a possibility, but a lot can be accomplished with modern science as well. He paused for a moment, his eyes crinkling again as he reflected. Then he added, and it's not entirely unthinkable that something else drove her from him and that it's simply an assumption on his part, though it's difficult to believe it would be entirely unfounded. He let out a long, soft sigh. This might not be the first time she's been in this situation. Dick's eyes widened. You think there might be others? Ra's would only care about one. Bruce shook his head as though to clear it. But that's speculation. I'll get to the bottom of it when I find her. Bruce, Dick's voice trailed off uncertainly. Have you considered the possibility that, well, he hesitated again, that she doesn't want to be found? They regarded each other for a moment, and then Bruce nodded. She knows who I am, and she could have chosen to come here, so no, it's more than a possibility. For whatever reason, she's decided not to contact me. He turned, looking past the suit to the other cabinets, reflecting. But one thing that I've learned, first from Alfred and then from working with you and the rest of the team, is that we don't have to go through this alone. He took a deep breath and let it out slowly. I need to make sure Talia knows that too. What she chooses to do after that will be up to her. I have to tell her. Good luck with that, Dick muttered, scowling at the floor. He let out a sigh of frustration, then he started and looked up again. Oh, speaking of Alfred, you've told him, right? Bruce nodded. I think he knew what I was going to do before I decided to do it, but yes, I did. Also, he walked toward the cabinet, looking up at the suit. You said you brought your gear. Yeah, Not everything, but I've got my suit, sticks, and belt. I brought a grapnel along, and if you're all right with me using some of your toys, that'll be plenty, I'm sure. Bruce nodded again, but more slowly this time. You've really become your own person, developed your own identity. He turned away from the case that held the bat suit, facing Dick again. However, I think that Gotham benefits from seeing Batman in action. It's possible that I won't be gone long enough for it to matter, but given that I can't be sure of that, I'd like you to think about wearing this instead. He continued before Dick could respond. It wouldn't fit perfectly right off, of course, but Alfred could see to any alterations. He took a quick breath, nodding briefly. You've grown a lot since we first partnered up. It'll fit. Wow. Okay, so. Right. Talia's disappeared. Probably pregnant. Probably with your kid. And I'm taking over as Batman while you investigate. He gestured with one hand. All of that. He took a deep breath. That about cover things? Dick, Bruce's voice was gentle. I wouldn't even have considered asking if I wasn't completely confident about this decision. And as I said, I'll do what I can to stay in touch. He shook his head slightly. Honestly, I doubt you'll need it. But I know what it's like to worry about family. Thank you. Dick stood there a moment, completely still. I mean, I know that I'll never be him, not really. Not like you. But it means a lot that you would trust me with this. I do. I trust you with Gotham. Bruce swallowed, let out a breath. For however long it takes. Dick looked down and away, a soft smile warming his expression. So, anything else? Bruce looked over his shoulder, back toward the computer. Actually, yes. Something that's probably long overdue, but that has become more relevant, I suppose. He focused on Dick again. I'm not your father. In fact, I tried to avoid being fatherly. You had a father, a good one. I never wanted you to think that I was trying to replace him. And, well, honestly, I was more than a little afraid I wouldn't measure up. But sometimes I think I went too far the other way. And I need you to know that you matter to me, Dick. He glanced over the other man's shoulder, then out at the emptiness of the cave. You matter so much, and I'm so proud of you, of the work that you do, of the man you've become. He took another careful breath and let it out. And I'm pretty confident that your father would be too. In the stillness that followed, Bruce held his shoulders rigid, not allowing them to droop with disappointment or regret, because if he'd waited too long, if this was too late, it was entirely his fault. And then he was abruptly wrapped in a tight hug. Dick's voice was a ragged whisper. I love you too, you know. Relief washed over him. Bruce lifted his arms cautiously, wrapping them around Dick in return. Yeah, he said. I know. And that's all you get this week, folks. That's the end of part 2. Now, before I turn to the live chat and we hang out for a while, next week, as I said before, same bat time, same bat channel, I will be hosting another fanfic live stream to share the third and final part of this story, but I will not be reading it. Instead, my writing partner will be joining me to read you the final portion of this story. And I've mentioned before during fanfic streams that I've been writing these fanfic stories with someone. I've had a co-writer, and the time has finally come for this someone to make their official debut on my channel. So tune in next week, not only to hear the third and final part of this story, but to hear it read by my writing partner. That's going to be really cool. So tune in for that, please. Same bat time, same bat channel next week. Also, while I'm on the subject of exciting news regarding this channel, I want to also let everyone know, because a lot of you have asked, and I've mentioned it a time or two, that there are brand new stuffy videos in the works. They are being written right now. I can't give you an absolute promise on the schedule. I would like to think that maybe one of them or maybe even a few of them will be posted before the end of this year, but I cannot make that promise. I do not know. It might not be until after the first of the year. There is not a precise release schedule worked out yet. But as soon as I know that, I will let you know, and we will start releasing new stuffy videos. But so I can't tell you when they're going to be available to watch exactly. But for now, what I can tell you is that we are working on a brand new series featuring Stuffy, titled Stuffy and Friends. And there will be some familiar faces in that series, and there will also be some fresh faces, some new characters coming in. And the show itself will be sort of a fresh start, a new beginning. But Stuffy and the returning cast members will still be the same characters that those of you who are fans of the Stuffy videos have come to know and hopefully love. So sorry I can't be more specific right now, but watch for more Stuffy and Friends coming soon. And hopefully that is good news to those of you who are fans of the Stuffy videos. More Stuffy is coming soon-ish. We're in the process of working on it right now, and hopefully in the next few months there will be new Stuffy videos for your entertainment, and for mine too, because they're so much fun to do and to make. The Stuffy videos, as longtime viewers of my channel know, the Stuffy videos are my absolute favorites. So yeah. That's it for the story. For everybody who is in the live chat, we can hang out for a while, and we can talk about the story I just read, or we can talk about anything else that's on your mind. Hang out for, another half an hour or so, and then I will release you back into the wild. So, and of course I turned to the live chat, and the first message I see is, are we going to get a better narrator next week? I'm kidding. You're a great narrator, but will the next narrator be better? I think so, but you will have to be the judge of that. And John Gingras donated to Give Directly. Thank you so much, John. I appreciate it. And just a reminder to everybody, Dana, it's tough. It's a tough call. The Stuffy videos are fanfic, especially lately. They're running neck and neck with each other in terms of how much I enjoy them. And anyway, I just wanted, John donated $20 to Give Directly. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And just a reminder to everybody who is watching, if you didn't hear me make the announcement at the beginning of the stream, this stream is not being monetized, and I am not making any money off of the stream. This is a fanfic stream, and I'm not profiting from it at all. But it is a charity fundraiser for Give Directly, which is a charity that collects donations from people and then gives money, just gives cash to needy people, to the poor, basically, to people who are living on low incomes, who need help, who need some money. They actually just give money to poor people, which is my preferred solution to poverty, quite honest. Just get money from people who have it and give it to the people that don't have it. And Give Directly is an organization that does that. So if you want to make a donation to Give Directly, you can do it through a super chat, just right there in the live chat if you're watching this live, or if you're watching this after the stream is over. You're watching the archived version. There's a donate button on the YouTube page right below the video, or beside the video, depending on if you have it in portrait or theater mode or whatever. And just click the donate button and donate that way. It's a really awesome cause, and I thank everybody who has donated so far, including Beautifulest One, who just donated to Give Directly. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Let's see who is what's going on in the live chat. Some random geek says, "Who is on the dresser just behind?" You mean like right here? That's Batman and Catwoman. Yeah, it's Batman and Catwoman on the dresser just behind. And Radical Bacon says, "Would Stuffy make a good writing partner?" Absolutely, absolutely. Caroline, you are going to have to wait until next week to find out who my writing partner is. That's the whole point of doing a reveal. I can't tell you who my writing partner is now. That would destroy the whole thing. And okay, well, this is like, okay, Caroline just did a Larry David move here. I just got an anonymous donation to give directly. Thank you very much. And then Caroline comes into the chat right after and says, "I'm anonymous." That is like, that was a whole episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. where Larry donated donated and put his name on a wing of his wife's charity, and then Ted Danson made the anonymous donation, but everybody knew that Ted Danson did it, so he got more credit because not only did he donate to the charity, but he was anonymous, so he got like, yeah. So that's great. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, Sir Random Geek, I prefer to end poverty by getting rid of capitalism, but if we can't, give money to poor people. Yes, exactly. Exactly. While we're waiting for capitalism to fall, while we're still working on replacing it with something better, let's do what we can for people in need right now. And I mean, Give Directly is not the only deserving charity, obviously, but just that mentality of, you know, let's give money directly to poor people. That is something that we in America, especially culturally, are really, really resistant to, because it's like, oh, it's a handout. Oh, you're going to make people, dependent. You're going to discourage people from working. They're going to become dependent on the handouts. And it's like, no, shut up. If people are in need, supply their need. Period. Give them what they need. Let them spend the money however they need to spend it. You know, they know what their needs are better than we do. And that's what Give Directly does. It gives money to people. And as far as I know, as far as I understand the way they operate, there are essentially no strings attached. Like when a family is chosen to be a recipient, they get the money and then they can do whatever they want with it. Which I think is a good way to go. I kind of think that's what the government should do. Like, I think that's what the government should do to alleviate poverty. They should identify people who need money and give them money. As long as the government isn't really doing that, it's nice to have organizations like Give Directly to do it. So please donate if you are able and if you have a mind. That's really sad news, Radical Bacon. I haven't looked that up yet, but I take your word for it. I assume what you're saying is accurate. James Randi has died. That's really a shame. That's really a shame. Some Random Geek says, I honestly thought the Catwoman doll was either the Tick or Steve Rogers. No, I don't know. I guess in the shadow, maybe it's hard to tell when my shadow is in front of her. But yeah, that is like, okay, I'll bring them in. I'll bring them a little closer so you can get a better look, even though they take fucking forever to stand up. These are from the 90s. These are like, this is the Batman and Catwoman that I kind of came of age with, that I grew up with. So this is like Batman circa like 1996, 1997 in the comics, 1998 maybe. And Catwoman ditto, sort of the 1990s Catwoman design with the purple outfit and, the whip and the long black hair. That's, yeah. There's classic 90s Batman and Catwoman. And actually they are... I bought them twice. I had and they come as a set. They come as a Legends of the Dark Knight set and a two pack, right? And I had them when I was a teenager. I got them when they first came out when I was like 17 or 18. And then when I moved out of my parents' house, I forgot to take them with me, and they wound up just sort of like in the basement in my parents' house. And at some point when my dad was moving stuff around or cleaning stuff out, I think they got thrown out. So I lost my original Batman and Catwoman, and I got those guys to replace them just a few years ago on eBay. And I'm very, very glad that I did because they're really, really cool. They're really, really cool. Oh my God, another anonymous donation to give directly. And that's $100. So thank you very much, whoever that was. I really, really appreciate your generosity. Joe says, why the name change? Is Steve of Steve and Stuffy moving out, or did his actor ask for more money? that That's not it. Caroline says, which do you prefer, the bat pole to the bat cave, where somehow they were in uniform at the bottom, or a uniform that envelops Bruce and Robin Iron Man style? I mean, the bat pole is great as a joke. You know what I mean? I love the bat pole for the Adam West show because it's a hilarious gag that like they just slide down a fireman's pole, and when they get to the bottom, they're magically in their uniforms. And I think I think it's in the movie where they show you the interior shot of them sliding down the poles, and Bruce like flips a switch on the way down. And it says like, bat suit quick change switch, and he just flips it. So, I mean, it's perfect for that. Like, I love it. But if you're doing like a slightly more serious Batman, where you're not trying to be as campy and as goofy as the Adam West version, yeah, the Iron Man style thing is better for that. But I honestly kind of just like them getting dressed. Like, I view it as they're just putting on their costumes. There doesn't need to be like a fancy, apparatus to dress them. They just like, okay, time to go be Batman and Robin. And they just, they take the suit down and they put it on, and there you go. Like that's how I picture it. But yeah. Radical Bacon says, what made you want to write about Batman love? The relationship between, I love Dick Grayson, right? I love Dick Grayson. And the relationship between Dick Grayson and Bruce is one of my favorites in the Batman mythos. I love Batman and Robin stories, no matter who Robin is, like pretty much. But Bruce and Dick, the original Batman and Robin, I've always had a soft spot. And I've loved that relationship, and I love the ups and downs that it goes through and how complex their relationship is. So that's what interests me. But you should maybe not necessarily assume that I wrote that the story I'm reading is 100% my idea, because maybe I have a co-writer. Maybe it's my co-writer who was particularly interested in this subject matter. I don't know. You have to find out next week. Yes, and Brandon Geek says, anyone can change while in a phone booth, but it takes a real man to change while sliding down a pole. That's an excellent point. And Geek also asks, have you seen Batman the Brave and the Bold? And if yes, what are your thoughts? I've seen a couple episodes of it. It's one of those that I keep meaning to go back and watch it all, because I've seen a few episodes of it and I've liked what I've seen. And Jason Harding, I co-host the Ensign's Log and Late Seating with, he has recommended it to me several times. He's a big fan of it. And so I haven't watched more than a few episodes, so I can't give like a strong opinion on it. But from what I have seen, I've really, really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, we should write somebody. Yeah, Caroline, you should write a story about Clark looking for a phone booth. That was a joke. This goes to show you like how outdated phone booths are. There was a joke about Superman not being able to find a phone booth in the 1978 Superman movie. Y'all remember that? I think it's his first change after he comes to Metropolis after finding the Fortress of Solitude. And Clark, it's when the helicopter crashes up on the roof of the Daily Planet, and Clark is getting ready to turn into Superman for the first time. And he's like racing to look for a place to change, and he stops at a payphone, and it's not a phone booth. It's just one of the payphones that are up sort of on a pedestal off the sidewalk. And he just kind of looks at it like, oh, That's not going to work. And I mean, that was 42 years ago. So, and oh, I love it. I love that joke. Beautifulest One says, may I ask your opinion on Star Trek Discovery Season 3 thus far? There hasn't, I mean, it's only been one episode so far, but I mean, I like the first episode. You know, it's hard to judge. It's hard to come to a conclusion about the whole season just based on the first episode, but I liked the first episode a lot. You know, so yeah, so far so good, I would say. And I'm so looking forward to season 3 of Discovery. I liked season 2 of Discovery so much, especially by the end. I was like totally into it. And season 3, I'm really, really looking forward to. And the first episode of season 3 certainly did nothing to diminish that enthusiasm. I'm really, really super excited. Oh, and Caroline says, I really loved your Trek Actually. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, the new Trek Actually went up today. And it is about whether or not Deep Space Nine was a ripoff of Babylon 5. So, yeah, and I'm glad that people do seem to really like it. The comments and the upvotes and such seem to indicate that people really like it. So I'm very glad, because I think it's a cool video. Caroline says, I love the George Reeves version of the uniform change. He just jumped out a window sometimes. Yeah, I have to say, I'm such a big fan of the George Reeves Superman. Like, I love the old Adventures of Superman show. I love it so much. And one of my favorite things about it is the physicality of George Reeves' Superman. Because George Reeves, I think most people who are familiar with the show already know this story. But when they were shooting the movie that they shot before they actually went to series, they did the Superman and the Mole Men movie they actually shot that first and was released in theaters first before it went on TV. And during the filming of that movie, they tried to do the Superman flying effect where he would take off and George Reeves was on wires and they would lift him up. And one of the wires broke and George almost got hurt, like really bad, because the wire like broke and he was sort of hanging there, and it could have been a really, really bad situation. So after that, George like went to the producers and said, I'm not doing that anymore, figure something else out. So they came up with the idea of just having him take a running leap and jump off of a springboard that they would have under the frame line. So you couldn't see that he was jumping off a springboard, and he would just jump off the springboard and jump either over the camera or out the window. So his Superman has this explosive, like physical takeoff where he takes a running leap and he jumps and he hits the ground and just launches himself out the window or over the camera. And I get a kick out of it every time. It's just this blast of energy. It's really, really cool. And then, of course, George Reeves' Superman one of his trademark moves was bursting through the wall. When he would arrive to rescue Lois and Jimmy or to catch the bad guys, he would come crashing through the wall, and it was so cool. I love George Reeves' Superman. I love George Reeves' Superman so much. Some Random Geek also loves today's Trek Act. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's a really interesting video. Alden Zenko says, I have a question for Stuffy. Do you have any advice for other stuffed animals trying to get into an acting career? That would probably be a better question for Hans. But if Stuffy were here, and Stuffy is not here right now, but if Stuffy were here, or Hans for that matter, I think they would probably give you similar advice, which is if you are a stuffed animal looking to break into acting, you have to master the basics first. And the most basic things you have to master in order to be a good actor are: 1, you must learn your lines. 2, when it's time for your scene, you must find your mark. You must plant your feet. And when it's your cue, you say your lines, but mean them. And honestly, that is the best acting advice I've ever heard. I think Jack Lemmon told that story on Inside the Actors Studio, and I believe he was quoting James Cagney. I think that's acting advice that James Cagney gave to a young Jack Lemmon. He said that's the key to acting. You learn your lines, you find your mark, you plant your feet, and you say your lines, but you mean them when you say them. Voila. It's just that easy, kids. Yes, Superman and the Mole Men. Yes. I love it. I love Superman and the Mole Men so much. Yeah, Dana, no, Hans does not have an acting career so much. He's gone out for a lot of stuff, though. He's read for pretty much everything, but he doesn't get too many parts. But it's not for lack of trying. And Some Random Geek says, speaking of ripoffs, is Dark City far better than its ripoff of The Matrix? You know, this is a good question because I can't remember if I characterized it as a ripoff in my video about it years ago, but if I did, that was unfair. I don't think The Matrix is a ripoff of Dark City. I think The Matrix deals with very, very similar themes as to Dark City does, and deals with those themes in what is, to me, a less interesting way. I just think Dark City, I mean, if you're asking me, as you know, because we've talked about it, and I've talked about it on videos before, I think Dark City is a lot better than The Matrix. I think Dark City is a way better movie than The Matrix. But I wouldn't say The Matrix is a ripoff of it, even though they do explore very, very similar territory in terms of theme. I just think Dark City explores that territory in a much more interesting way. Caroline Clark says, did you see the I Love Lucy Superman special? Of course, I love that episode. I love the Superman episode of Lucy. Absolutely. It's a classic. Yeah, Caroline, actually, Superman in general didn't fly originally. Flight was not one of his powers initially. It was when they said leap tall buildings in a single bound, that's literally what they meant. He was not meant to actually fly. He was meant to be able to jump really far and sometimes give the illusion of flight, but that was it. I think I could have this wrong. And if anybody else knows better, please feel free to correct me. But I think he acquired the power of flight because of the Fleischer cartoons, because the animators found that it was just a lot simpler, a lot easier to animate sequences with Superman if they could just do it as though he was flying, as opposed to constantly having, okay, he needs to jump, and then he needs to land on this thing, and then he needs to jump to something else. And it was just a lot easier to just say, screw it, he can fly, and we'll just, have him take off and show him flying through the air and then show him landing. It's a lot simpler that way. And so they asked DC Comics or whoever was in charge, they said, can we just have him fly? Can we just make him fly instead of jumping everywhere? And they said, yeah. And it stuck. It became an enduring part of the character. That's right, Some Random Geek. Hans did sing to you for your birthday. He did. Yeah, Radical Bacon says, I like Spider-Man's swinging mode of transport, which is very similar to Batman's. And that is something, there are a couple of elements of Batman from the comics that have never really ever found their way into the live action movies in a satisfying way. And one of them is Robin. Of course, Robin was in the Schumacher movies, but I don't think those movies were all that great. And then Robin is there's a kind of a faint echo of Robin in The Dark Knight Rises, but not really. We've never seen, to my way of thinking, we've never seen like a proper live action Batman movie where it was a Batman and Robin story, and you got to see like a version of Robin that was recognizable as Robin from the comics. So I would love to see that in a big budget movie. Maybe Robin was in the serials and the 1966 Batman movie, but in terms of like a serious take on the character, we've never seen like a proper Batman and Robin, and I'm regretful of that, and I hope that changes at some point before I fucking die. And also, you never see Batman swinging through the city, Spidey style, on Batarang and line, as we say. Spider-Man swings Spidey style, and Batman and Robin swing through with a Batarang and line. And that's such a fun part of the character, to know that like he doesn't just drive around on the Batmobile all night. He gets out, he throws the Batarang, or he shoots a grappling hook, and he's like swinging above the rooftops on the end of a wire. And you've never quite seen that in the movies. You see him glide in Batman Begins and a little bit in The Dark Knight, and sort of like being pulled along by the grapnel with like a motorized grappling gun. But it's not quite the same thing as seeing him like swing over the rooftops and reach the apex and let go and shoot out another one and swing on that, like Spidey style. Batman does that in the comics. And he never really does that in the live action movies. And that's kind of a bummer because that would be so much fun to see. Yeah, and Lego Batman. Yeah, Lego Batman is awesome. Lego Batman. I didn't see Lego Batman until this year actually. I watched it finally a few months ago. And Lego Batman is hilarious and is so good. Like yeah. And has Robin. Lego Batman is like it's that version of the Batman and Robin origin story, and it's really good. It's really good. Yes, Caroline makes a good point. Batman and Robin can walk straight up a building. Absolutely, they can. In the 60s, they can just walk straight up a building. Radical Bacon says, "Would you watch a Batman musical?" I would definitely watch it. Sure. Like I couldn't resist from watching it. Whether I would like it or not would greatly depend. But I would totally watch it. How could I not? Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, when I after I saw Batman versus Superman and I swore off the DC Comics movies, the only exception I made was for the next Batman movie. And at the time, that was going to be Ben Affleck's Batman movie. That was going to be, he was going to write and direct it and star as Batman. And now that's completely out the window, and it's Robert Pattinson and it's Matt Reeves directing it. And I'm totally going to see that too. But the only exception I made to my no more DC Comics films rule was the next Batman movie. I've got to see the next Batman movie. There's just no other way around it. I've got to see the next Batman movie. And of course, I did eventually see Wonder Woman on streaming and Shazam as well. And I'm really glad I watched Shazam because Shazam was fucking awesome. But yeah. Random Geek. I mean, I have come around on musicals a lot. I used to not like musicals at all, like on principle. Like I just thought, oh, musicals, fuck them. Like I didn't like them at all. I have really, really come around on that. Obviously Hamilton was a big part of that. Listening to the cast recording of Hamilton, and just absolutely falling in love with it, and then getting to actually watch it on Disney Plus earlier this year for the first time. And I mean, Hamilton just kills me. It's one of the greatest things I've ever seen. So I like it. And I just recently, just a few weeks ago, I watched the movie version of Chicago for the first time, which I had not seen, and I thought that was terrific. Like I really, really liked that. So my opposition to musicals, my cynical rejection of all musicals as a matter of principle has been melting quite a bit, because like I said, I loved Hamilton. I thought Chicago was awesome, and yeah, and there have been other musicals in the past that I have enjoyed, especially if they were funny, because there's always the rule of funny. But yeah. Oh, Caroline says, did you notice how many Reeves or Reeve are involved in Batman and Superman? Yeah, there's George Reeves, there's Christopher Reeve, there's Matt Reeves now as the director, and there might be one or two more, aren't there? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, everybody mentions the Christopher Reeve, George Reeves one because it's like, the two consecutive most famous actors to play Superman both had very similar last names. That's weird, right? Some Random Geek. So if they do make Shazam 2, you would go see it. Yeah, I would totally go see Shazam 2. Absolutely. Dana, I have not heard all of the Hamilton mixtape. I have not listened to it as an album from beginning to end, but I've heard a lot of the songs on it. Yeah. And I mean, it's terrific. Like what I've heard of it is awesome. But I haven't actually listened to the whole thing from beginning to end. Radical Bacon says, we have to get you to watch Holy Musical Batman. It's funny as shit. I'll check it out. I've seen it. I've seen people talk about it. I think I might have seen it recommended or something here and there, but I've never actually watched it. I'll give it a shot. Caroline, yeah, I think Shazam is very much worth watching. I thought Shazam was awesome. Easily the best of the current crop of DC Comics movies. Like easily. It's not even a contest. It's so good. It's so good. And I'm such a fan of that character. I love, previously Captain Marvel, now they call him Shazam, but that character, is one of my favorites. He's like right in terms of DC Comics superheroes. I mean, it's like Batman, Superman, and Shazam is like right there. Like, I love that character so much. It's so much fun, and it's so tough to get right. Like the balance of tone, because Shazam is more of a light-hearted character. He's more comical, and more of like a light sort of adventure character than even Superman, and way lighter and more comical than Batman typically is, at least modern Batman. So it's a tough balance to strike, and the Shazam movie really, really hits it just right. It's funny, and it's goofy, and it's also really warm and sincere and sentimental at times, and also like a really great action movie and a good superhero movie. And it's really, really good. I highly recommend the Shazam movie. It's really, really good. Yeah, Caroline, yeah, you should watch it. You should check it out. And I'm glad you like Discovery. I'm glad you watched it on my recommendation, and I'm glad you're enjoying it. Marvin asks, how's your family with the coronavirus? So far, so good. Nobody in my immediate family has gotten sick. Nobody in my extended family that I'm aware of has gotten sick. Nobody in real life that I know personally has gotten it that I am aware of. There are a few people that I know online, some of whom I'm a little closer to than others, some of whom I just kind of know and I'm not like super close to, have gotten it. Fortunately, nobody has died, again, that I can think of right now that I'm aware of. So I think me and mine have done pretty good. Knock on wood. Knock on wood beneath my acoustic dampening blanket. Yeah. Thank you. See, Dana's got me. Knock wood. Everybody's fine. Yeah. But, yeah. So thank you for asking. So far, everybody's okay. And hopefully that continues, since apparently this pandemic is going to last forever because we fucked it up. Like, a very, very large portion of the rest of the world has gotten past the worst of it. And like you hear about, oh no, they had a terrible outbreak. They had a terrible spike in some other country. And it's like, oh, they had 10 cases. And it's like we have 1,000 people dying a day here. We really fucked this up. Yeah. 2 years. Exactly. Dana, yeah. 2 years. Because we fucked it up so bad. And because we're still fucking it up. We're still fucking it up. Like, it's getting worse. Cases are going up, right? All over the country. We're still fucking it up. Yeah. Yeah, Radical Bacon, Trump fucked it up. Absolutely. Trump fucked it up. But a lot of us helped him fuck it up. And a lot of us were all too eager to help him fuck it up. When we saw Trump fucking it up, we were like, yeah, fuck yeah. We'll help you fuck it up, Mr. President. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Dana, yeah, exactly. Not all by himself. Exactly right. He put in he was an absolutely abysmal leader. He fucked it up in terms of setting an example, in terms of leading, for sure. There is blood on his hands. Like, he bears responsibility for the 200,000+ people who are dead in the United States because of it. I think he deserves to have it laid at his feet. But it's not all his fault. He didn't do it all by himself. Murray Ziller says, how much confidence do you put in 538 or other pollsters? Not enough that I think it's a foregone conclusion. I mean, I think 538 is, I certainly hope it's accurate. I put enough faith. I'll put it this way. I put enough faith in it that I check it every day, sometimes multiple times a day. You know, I check the election forecast for the president and for the Senate and for the House of Representatives. So I put that much faith in it that I check it, and I think, oh God, I hope this is what happens. You know, because it's had Biden pretty solidly ahead for a while now, and hopefully that trend continues for the next couple of weeks, and Biden wins the election. So yeah, I put that much faith in it. I put that much faith in it. Yeah, Radical Bacon, Trump is going to the bad place. If anybody deserves to go, yeah. Yes, Caroline says in the live chat, I can't remember the city, but did you see that Lord Dampenut told a city he didn't want to be there? Kind of like he hated that city. I believe that was Erie, Pennsylvania. So yeah, one of those states that he needs to win, right? People are saying that like if Trump doesn't win Pennsylvania, then he can pretty much forget about it. You know, if he wins Pennsylvania, it doesn't automatically mean he wins the election. But if he can't win Pennsylvania, then he's pretty well screwed. And he goes to Pennsylvania for a campaign event, and he tells the people of Erie, Pennsylvania, that he doesn't want to be there. that it's. I think he said it was cold or something. Yeah. So, yeah. That's Trump, the master politician, for you. Yeah. Oh, and Marvin, I'm sorry you didn't like the first episode. Marvin says, I noticed no one ever asked about your family. Well, thank you for people do ask occasionally, but thank you for asking. And what do I think about Discovery Season 3? I've seen the first episode. It sucked. So I hope episode 2 will be better. I'm sorry that, I'm sorry that you didn't like it. I thought it was good, but I hope you like the second episode better too. Caroline says he could be elsewhere counting all the money he has in Chinese banks. Oh, yeah, right, because apparently he has a secret Chinese bank account. And Radical Bacon says it's probably because he's still fucking sick. Yeah, exactly. And Joe McClory just donated to Give Directly. Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate that. Just a reminder to everybody, because I'm going to wrap up this stream here pretty soon. I'm going to call this to a close. Yeah, this is a fundraiser for Give Directly, which is an awesome charity that gives money to people who need money, that gives money directly to poor people. So if you are feeling generous and you want to send me a super chat while the stream is still live for the next few minutes, or if you're watching this after the fact and you want to click that donate button on the YouTube page and donate that way, your donation goes to Give Directly. It's an awesome, awesome charity and a very worthy cause. And thank you, Joe, for donating. Thanks to everybody who has donated during the stream. And thanks to everybody who is going to donate after the stream is over. If you're watching the recorded version of this and you want to donate, thank you very much for your generosity as well. Dana says, did you hear that Trump was talking about leaving the country if he lost to Biden? Yes. And then did you see Biden's tweet in reply, which is he quote tweeted the video of Trump saying that with the comment, promise? Like that's it's like stop threatening us with a good time. It's Republicans. They have done that several times. They did it last time against Clinton, where one of the Republicans, they were trying to like fear monger. And they said, if Hillary Clinton wins the election, then there's going to be a taco truck on every corner in this country. And people were like, great. I would love to have a taco truck at every corner of the country. That would be awesome. Thank you so much. Like, is that supposed to scare me? And they've done it this time. We're saying like, oh, like if Biden wins, then Bernie Sanders is going to be the chairman of the Judiciary Committee or the Finance Committee or whatever. And, and they're going to like the Justice Department is going to investigate everybody who was in the Trump administration. And it's like, yeah. And like, what's okay, good. Like where's the part where I'm supposed to not vote for him? Yeah. Caroline says, I'm waiting for him to fall over on his face when he does one of those stupid dances. He seems, but he never moves his feet. I don't know how he's supposed to. I mean, he's always, I think the reason he doesn't move his feet is because he's always doing like a lean. He's always leaning very far forward. So, he doesn't move his feet too much when he's quote unquote dancing. Yes, Radical, but that's another one. Yes, Trump has been trying to scare people at his rallies by saying Biden will listen to scientists. He'll listen to Dr. Fauci. Okay. And not just Dr. Fauci, but like every other public health expert in the world who's basically saying the same thing. Yeah, he'll listen to them. He'll craft policy to respond to the pandemic based on what the best science available is saying we should do. Oh no. Oh God, no, not that. Anything but that. Please, no, not. Don't listen to science. Don't listen to medical professionals and public health experts when it comes to crafting policy to respond to a pandemic. Anything but that. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Caroline, I did not hear that. Caroline says, did you hear they're trying to get Trump's new doctor disbarred? I did not hear that. That's the first I'm learning of that. Thank you for sharing that. Did everybody see the Giuliani thing today? Apparently in the new Borat movie, there's a scene of Rudy Giuliani lying down on a bed and putting his hand in his pants and apparently fondling himself in front of a girl who he thinks is 15. She's not actually 15. She's an actress, and she's older than that, but she's playing a 15-year-old character. And he doesn't know she's an actor. Like, he thinks it's real. He doesn't know that she's, he thinks he's in a documentary or something. And I guess maybe it's a hidden camera. Yeah. So that's fun. That's fun. Yeah, Joe McClure says, I want so bad to live in the world that Republicans strawman about. Right? I know, right? It sounds pretty great. Free healthcare and free college for everybody. Yeah, great. That sounds awesome. They want everybody to have a house. They give everybody a house, give everybody money. Yeah. Can we do that? That sounds great. Like, what's the thing I'm supposed to be against exactly? We'll give everybody a place to live. We'll treat healthcare as a human right. We'll treat education as a human right. It'll be available to everybody, right? Like, what? Okay, great. Can we? Like, can we do that? That sounds awesome. Please. I mean, shit. Okay, so I am going to wrap this up. Thank you all so much for coming by tonight and listening to me read some fanfic. Don't forget, next week. Oh, Mari Ziller says, Steve, shout homeless rights again. Homeless rights. Why are there homeless people in this country exactly when we can afford for there not to be? I mean, if you think about it for like 10 seconds, that's like one of the most fucked up things in the world. There are homeless people in the United States when we have enough money and enough housing even for everybody. Like, what the fuck? So yes, absolutely homeless rights. Jesus. Yes, it's ridiculous that it's even controversial. Bye, Radical Bacon. Have a good class. We're wrapping up anyway, so good to see you. Glad you could make it. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up. Don't forget the charity links in the description of the video. In addition to considering donating to Give Directly, there's also a collection of charity links for our friends who need a little bit of a helping hand that has been collated by our friend Some Random Geek, who was kind enough to put them all together into a Google Doc that he will continually update and edit and refresh. So check out that link to the Google Doc. Donate to those friends of ours who need a little bit of a helping hand. And yes, please consider, if you haven't already, if you're able to, please donate to Give Directly. You can do it just using the super chat for as long as the stream is live for the next few minutes, or you can use the donate button on the YouTube page, and you can donate directly to Give Directly, which is an awesome charitable organization that gives money directly to people who need money, directly to low-income people. It's a really, really awesome organization. Tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. I said it earlier, and then I said it again because I didn't say it last time. Somebody had to prompt me and say, hey, don't you mean same bat time, same bat channel? I remembered it this time. So anyway, don't forget to come back next week, next Wednesday, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern for the third and final installment of this fanfic of Batman Sees the Light. It's going to be awesome. I really, I will not be reading it. I will be joined on the air for the reading by my co-writer, by my writing partner, and they will read the final chapter. So yeah, actually, before I go, just out of curiosity, for those of you who saw both, for those of you who have read or seen, well, I guess you've seen both parts of this story. Did you have a preference? Did you like scene 1 or scene 2 better? Scene 1 last week, if it just to refresh everybody's memory, that was Bruce and Ra's al Ghul at the party, and they have their fight outside. And then scene 2 was tonight with Bruce and Dick in the Batcave. Just to people who saw both, which one do you prefer? Beautiful says scene 2. Interesting. Yes, Some Random Geek, thank you very much. My Patreon hangout is also this Sunday. Yes, so stay tuned for that on Sunday as well. Brian Pooh KC says loved both parts. Caroline liked scene 2 better, but also liked scene 1. Interesting. Joe liked this one better, but that may be seeing it live bias. Interesting. Thank you very much. Some Random Geek says I love both for different reasons. I love scene 1 for the fighting. I love this scene for the fatherly love. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's just interesting. It's just because they're very different scenes. They're very different scenes. Scene 1 has a lot of action in it. It sort of hinges on a fight, an epic fight between Batman and Ra's al Ghul. Not an epic fight, but a cool fight. And then scene 2 that I read tonight is it's fatherly love. It's Batman and Robin or Batman and Nightwing having like a nice emotional scene together. So yeah. So yeah, interesting. Anyway, that's okay. That was the last thing I wanted to know. Thanks everybody for indulging me and answering that question. And yeah, same bat time, same bat channel next week, next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, along with my my co-writer, my writing partner, and we will give you the final part of this series, Batman Sees the Light. So thanks everybody for listening, for watching, for being here. Thank you to those of you who donated, and thank you to those of you who are going to donate, to give directly. I really, really appreciate it. And and Mary Ziller says scene 2. Awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's hard for me to pick, quite honestly. I'm a little close to it, but I'm just curious what people thought. So, all right. See you next week for the second part, or for the third part of this. See you on Sunday for my Patreon hangout. See you on Monday for for the final edition of the Facepalm 5 as well. Big week next week. Anyway, take care, everybody. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you later. Bye.